preview.
All right, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how I traded Ichimoku Cloud strategy for over 10 years now. Quick little rundown on me. I am a professional trader. I was number 11 on Bybit leaderboard circa 2023, and I am not one of these BS KOLs out here that are trying to sell you a paid course or anything like that. So let's just hop right into it. All right, guys, so starting things off, here's the Bitcoin chart. I'm going to show you guys and tell you guys exactly how to read the Ichimoku Cloud and what each of these lines mean. So there's some quick little history. This was made back by some super smart Japanese dude. This is a Japanese indicator, and it is primarily for swing trading. So this is the most powerful on the higher time frames. I'm talking about 4-hour, daily, weekly, monthly. That's when you would mostly want to use this. I personally use it on the 4-hour and the daily the most. You can use it on smaller time frames, but it is the most powerful on higher time frames. It is known as a swing trader's indicator. So this is not something mostly for, scalping and getting in and out for day traders. This is mostly for swing trading. Okay, guys. So very first thing that we want to talk about is the Tenkan Sen. The Tenkan Sen is this blue line right here. That's the Tenkan Sen, okay? The red line is called the Kijun. The Kijun. Then you have the actual clouds. The clouds are made and formed by another line, this green line right here and a red line right here. Now, all of the lines pretty much signify a moving average for the price. They trail the price at a certain distance, and then they create what are these clouds. This is the most unique portion of the indicator, right? Is the clouds, because they show you basically significant areas of support and resistance. Now, the final line that we have that a lot of people seem to just not really care about, I personally ignore it many of the times, but it is this lagging span green line right behind. So the lagging span is a confirmation indicator, okay? Now, the lagging span is extremely powerful for confirming the trend. And I'll get to that at the very, very end. But let's just go ahead and break down how I trade the Tenkan Sen, which is the blue line, and the Kijun, because this is the most in terms of the closest moving averages for the actual price action, right? So the Tenkan Sen, as you can see over here, on multiple times, when the price goes up and down, chops around, does its little beautiful little thing, whenever it hits the Tenkan Sen and it's under, it usually acts as a resistance. So you can see right here, the price broke under the Tenkan Sen, came back up, it hit the Kijun and the Tenkan Sen, so that was a very strong rejection right here. Then it came back down. Over here, it also hit it. It looks like it broke above it, but this was because the price just wicked up. So if you change it into a line chart, you can see a lot more clearly that it got rejected right there. And then because it basically almost broke above it, it just quickly came down and then finally broke back above. Now we are in a bearish trend, because when this stuff was happening over here, the lagging span was under the clouds. So this confirms that it is a bearish trend, and you want to be looking for shorts rather than longs. So when the lagging span was already under the clouds and you're popping up to challenge the Tenkan Sen, you would want to short there, especially short at the Kijun, right? So it's two levels of resistance. Just like, let's say, if you understand moving averages, it's just like, shorting at the 50 moving average and the 100 moving average, right? So the 100 moving average is a lot more powerful, but the 50 moving average, you get a lot more chances to actually take a trade, all right? So let's just go back on all of this, and you can see over here that the Tenkan Sen and the Kijun are lining up perfectly with the trend down here. Whenever the Kijun is above the Tenkan Sen, that is further confirmation that the trend is bearish. When the Tenkan Sen breaks above the Kijun, that is a bullish crossover, just as if the 50 moving average crossed over the 100 moving average, okay? So if you guys do not know how moving averages work, and what I'm talking about when I say moving averages. I will try to break down the moving averages tutorial pretty soon, but just keep in mind that you should have at least a little bit of sense of what moving averages are and how they work in order to trade the Ichimoku Cloud, because the Ichimoku Cloud is essentially a more advanced version of the moving averages. Okay, so now that you know how the Tenkan and the Kijun work, remember, if the price is under, you want to essentially have, if the price is under, basically both of the lines act as resistance, with the Kijun being stronger than the Tenkan, the red line being stronger than the blue line. Very simple. Now, the more complicated and, dare I say, important part of the Ichimoku Cloud strategy or indicator is the cloud. The cloud is what makes this super unique, and it is beautiful for trading. Is one of my favorite things. So right now the price is fairly far away from the Ichimoku Cloud over here, and it's under the Tenkan and the Kijun. You can see right here it had a swing failure pattern, which is, I mean, it had so many things. It had a swing failure pattern. It had a morning star, you know, which became a bullish engulfing, and just a rather large. I mean, there's so many essentially bottom signals right here that you can see. I highly advise you guys to learn about candlestick trading patterns, because it is very powerful to use with the Ichimoku Cloud. I will be creating a video on it in the future, so if you guys would like to see that, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, all that fun jazz, right? But I'll try to get one out rather soon. So anyways, here you can see there was a bunch of reversal patterns here at the bottom. It was under the Tenkan and under the Kijun, which was basically a dead giveaway for a buy. It was a pretty strong signal that this was oversold, it would be the technical term. And it was also very far away from the Ichimoku Cloud. So that's why we had such a strong buy pressure over here. But because the trend is still bearish, remember, this lagging span over here is still way under the clouds. Because the trend is still bearish, it immediately dumped right back down, formed another wick, came back up, challenged the Tenkan and the Kijun one more time, and then finally we're at the current price range right here. So what would I do in this chart if I see these sort of things? What sort of signals are we seeing right now on the market? Well, for one, it is all the way back down to this oversold territory, the same as over here. It is still under the Tenkan and the Kijun, except now the Tenkan is actually starting to curve up for a potential bullish crossover from the Tenkan to the Kijun. That means that the blue line is going to cross over the red line, which would be the very first sign, the very first indicator of a bottom forming and basically the market pivoting back into bullish territory. So you would want to buy this dip right here. Okay, and then of course this is all easier to say and look, you know, in retrospect, but let's just go ahead and move things forward. So now the price is, the price is still moving down. We have the Tenkan and the Kijun also moving down, but boom, what do we get after this? We get a bullish engulfing. That's when the green candlestick is much larger than the candlestick prior to it, which is basically a bullish signal. We're still in oversold territory. So this is a bull's territory. That means that the market is looking to buy at these ranges because they believe that it is oversold and it is dumping way too fast, right? So you buy in this area and you would essentially look to close or take profit at the blue line, the red line, or at the Ichimoku Cloud over here, right? So if you entered into a position down here and it pumps up to the blue line, I actually wouldn't even take profit there. I would set my stop losses at entry to make sure that, you know, if the trade is wrong, I don't get screwed over, right? So we just let things continue going. And you can see it pumps up. It's getting very close to the Tenkan, but it hasn't triggered it yet. Now it comes right back down, still sort of scared the market is essentially still scared, and because it didn't even challenge the Tenkan-sen. But let's see. Okay, so here it pumped right back up and it challenged the Tenkan-sen. This is essentially where I would look to, you know, down here where we would have entered these longs down at the bottom. This is where I would have taken set my take profit or my stop loss at my entry. So essentially my trade would have been somewhere over here. Now for the stop loss, personally, as a swing trader, I don't set stop losses because I use such low leverage. You know, I'm talking about like 2x, at the most 3x. But let's just say you're buying spot. Okay, so this is not a leverage trade. You're looking to buy spot, but you still want to get out and not be holding bags if the market moves against you, right? If you're buying spot, you can hold for however long you want. But if you wanted to get in at a better position, then this would be perfect for that sort of scenario, right? So right once it challenged that, I would set my take profit essentially right there. Now let's see what happens. All right, it crosses over the Tenkan-sen, challenging it, comes right back down, but finds it as support. Still would not have stopped me out. Then it bounces back up. Now it's actually confirmed above the Tenkan-sen, which is that blue line. It's going to most likely move up higher. You see it comes back down, challenges it again, but finds full support. Now it breaks up, challenges the Kijun. The Kijun, I would have set my take profit up here. So now that the Kijun came down, you could potentially just look to just take profit right there. That would have been a nice 7% trade. Or you can just let it run. I personally would recommend letting your winners run. And that is to see if it'll, you know, challenge the red cloud, and then if it'll break back above, and essentially you just caught the bottom, generational bottom, right? So we know now, looking back, that this is a very good entry, but let's just keep playing the time. So as things move on, you can see it found resistance at the Kijun, came back down, found support at the Tenkan-sen. So now it's basically the bulls and the bears fighting in between these two moving averages, in between this area. That's why there's so much conflict right here. You know, it broke back above, came back down, broke back up, came back down, and then wherever it crosses over is basically the confirmation of whether this becomes a pivot point or not. So broke under the Tenkan-sen there, pumped back up, got resistance at the Kijun, and then boom, it just broke up above the Kijun and the Tenkan-sen. That is essentially the first bullish signal, but it's not confirmed the first bullish signal yet until the Tenkan-sen crosses over the Kijun, until the red line or the blue line crosses over the red line. So you can see, boom, over here it was a lot of resistance at this range right here, because there was no bullish crossover yet, right? So you holding at this range would be risky because we have large resistance from the cloud right above, and we didn't have the support of the Tenkan-sen yet. So because that didn't happen, it immediately came back down, crossed over, or dumped back under both of the supports and the trends, but we now at least have the Tenkan-sen crossing over the Kijun, which is your first bullish sign. All right, so we're going to continue moving forward. And you can see it didn't even, if you would have stepped your stop loss at entry, it wouldn't have stopped you out. And by the way, I don't even remember where this thing actually came down at. You know, I just literally placed that there while I'm explaining this stuff to you guys. But it pumped back up, back above the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun, and it challenged the cloud for the first time. You can see as soon as it hit this cloud, it didn't even let the candlestick finish, right? So if you were trading this live and you actually saw the price action forming with the candlestick, then you would essentially look to, one, take profit at the cloud, or two, short at the cloud, because the cloud is strong resistance. As soon as it hit it, boom, it came right back down. And then it's bouncing back up. The Tenkan-sen, the blue line, is still above the red line, and back up above the Kijun, excuse me. Oof, that was a nasty one. So as you can see, I really don't remember the price action before I set this up for you guys. But this essentially would be considered a stop hunt. Okay, I mean, not really. You could see that it got very close to the cloud, so there's actually a lot more resistance if this wanted to dump down at the bottom, but the blue line is still over the red line. However, with this sell, you're looking at a potential bearish crossover, right? So this could just be essentially chop, and then the price will go down. Now, with this chart right here and all of the signals that I'm seeing right here, I personally would be short. This is a very bearish sort of chart. We have the lagging span still under everything. We have the Tenkan about to cross over the Kijun into a bearish trend. We got instant rejection at the bearish cloud, and then let's see what happens. Boom. It swept these lows and then immediately popped back up. We have the Tenkan and the Kijun moving together in unison right here. Price comes back down, and then this is where it crosses over above everything. This essentially becomes a double bottom down here, and this is a very large bullish engulfing. So now that it actually crossed or it challenged the bearish cloud once, and it pops up and does something like this, that means that it wants to challenge the cloud again, usually, right? I mean, it's you know, you can get rejected 2 times on the cloud and then come right back down, but in my experience, usually when the cloud gets challenged 2 or 3 times, it's almost always going to break right through it, especially if it's a third time. The third time, I would really pretty much never I would expect for the price to break back above the cloud or under the cloud, depending on the position of the price. But we can see over here, it starts to find some more chop. The price is above both of them. It challenged the cloud for a second time. So that tells me the price really wants to go back above the cloud. A lot of the bulls and the buy pressure is coming back. The lagging span is right back over here, and it's getting closer to the cloud as well. Starts moving up, challenges the cloud multiple times, gets wicked down multiple times here. And at that point, when you see something like that, you think, okay, this thing really wants to pop back up. So you might as well just let it do its thing. Now we have the blue line above the red line, the Tenkan above the Kijun. And this is where basically bulls take control of everything. We have huge support from the Kijun right here, which just shows you that there's a massive amount of buy pressure. It finally breaks into the cloud, and you can see very beautifully how the cloud works and how it's such a strong resistance, right? So first, you got the resistance over here. Second time, the first time I tested it, over here. Third time, you have this entire level, this entire range where it's just challenging resistance, and it just can't break it until finally the bears are defeated, and not defeated yet, because it still needs to break back above the cloud and basically do something like that in order to confirm the bullishness. Remember, the lagging span still needs to go above the cloud, but you can see the lagging span back here, and it is very, very, very close to the cloud. So it pumps above the cloud, very strong. You know, the Kijun is starting to trace it and come right back up, but there's no green support anywhere close, right? So let's just keep moving it forward. And now you have the Tenkan, the blue line above the clouds, which is also a very strong bullish signal, and the Kijun is breaking into the cloud as well. And now it's got some chop because there's just no support. Boom, the Tenkan starts to push up. But there's a lot of space between the Tenkan right here and the Kijun. And there's still no cloud, no green cloud, support cloud anywhere close by. So this right here shows me that, you know, it's basically a somewhat of a bull flag. But because it's so far away, people would think, oh, you know, this is an obvious buy signal. You know, let me FOMO and buy in at the top over here. But Ichimoku traders would say, okay, it's strong. It looks very good. The cloud or the lagging span is above the cloud. All signs are showing that we're bullish. But you could, if you wait a little bit, you could potentially buy back down here for a better entry. So let's see if it actually comes down there. You see, if you would have FOMO'd right here, you would have been screwed. It goes up, boom, finds support. Well, looks like that actually would have been the best time to buy. Let's see. Let's just see how this plays out. Oof. Yeah. So I would have been left in the dust, guys. But usually you would want to buy at least a little bit closer to the cloud. I mean, Bitcoin is a hell of a beast when it comes to into a bull market. You can see it did the exact same thing over here as well once it broke back above this stuff. So this is essentially what I was looking for the market to do, is once this broke above and we had the lagging span also following, I expected Bitcoin in this sort of situation where it kind of did this little bull flag where it's trailing upwards. I expected it to pump up and then come and do a reversal closer towards the cloud right here. And then basically that's where you would want to buy, where it's closer towards the cloud support. And then boom, the trend continued upwards, and it would have been a very, very good entry to buy down over here. However, in the current zone, or the current price history that I showed, you can see that it basically wanted to do that exact same thing right here. It pumped up and then came back down, but the buy pressure was just so strong that anyone that was waiting down here would have been basically wrecked. Well, not wrecked, but they would have been left having to buy the price essentially somewhere over here or in this range right here, right? Having to FOMO in. And then you can see the price did very good action afterwards, right? Just kept going up and up and up. So that's pretty much everything with the Tenkan-sen. Hopefully you guys could understand this. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, make sure you join discord.gg/woodexchange and feel free to ask me. I'll also be answering on the comments down below, everything like that. But also, let me just finish off with saying one thing. But remember that you also want to be looking at multiple different time frames, because even though it looked like this could come down here on the daily, if I would have looked at the 4-hour, then the 4-hour would have shown me basically better Ichimoku profile to buy in. So this is where the cloud was before, where it was challenging the cloud on the daily, right? And it challenged it multiple times before it finally popped right up. And then this is where I was essentially expecting the price to come back down and we could buy at this zone over here. However, if you would have paid attention to two time frames, the daily and the 4-hour, the 4-hour would have shown you that it is still very bullish. The Tenkan-sen, the blue line, is above the red line, the Kijun, and the price came down to challenge the support cloud once right here. And then when it came back up, you could have bought it essentially right here when it challenged it again. So the price actually broke down under the clouds right here, especially here. This red sell signal right here is a bull trap. So that red candlestick on the 4-hour would have made you think, okay, I'm just gonna wait to buy down here, like I told you guys. Okay, it's gonna come down, right? You wouldn't short there because it looks very bullish on the daily, but on the 4-hour, it looks like it's gonna come down. So it looks like you're gonna have your entry, right? If you looked at both time frames. However, as soon as it pumped back up and back into the cloud, especially this right here, when it pumped up back above the cloud, this right here would have been obvious sign that it is that this was a bear flag, or excuse me, a bear trap, and that the market is very, very bullish, right? So if you looked at both the 4-hour and the daily would have told me to wait and try to enter in down here at a better price around 87,400. But because I saw the price break back up above the cloud and then find support, I would have told myself, okay, this is very strong. You want to get into it immediately. So you would have had this essentially, what is this? Essentially like a day and a half to actually get back into the trade, because you know that the market is just way too bullish, right? And then from there, it pumped up very strong because everyone else that was waiting down here to get in basically had to buy the by the price upwards. So that's how you basically use Ichimoku Cloud on multiple time frames. I know that this is way over 10 minutes. I apologize for that, but hopefully you guys got something out of this. And again, if you guys have any questions, make sure to ask me on discord.gg/what exchange. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.